Okay, so the inside's probably cold then also. Not till it warms up, or just fill it with cold water, because otherwise they'll. All right. Okay. Well, good morning, Paul. Good morning, Ramen. Because YouTube hates me there, Ramen. That's why. Because YouTube hates me. That's why. So what's this? Why am I worried about a sand bucket? Uh, some of the text messages I get are so weird. It really is. But anyway, yeah, I know. Yesterday, I didn't have a chance to make my wife's ice cream yesterday. I forgot about a doctor's appointment I have in the afternoons now for the next 2 months on Mondays. So if it hadn't been for the fact alarms went off on my watch to tell me that I've got doctor's appointments, I would have forgotten all about it. Then by the time I got home, it was dinner time, and well, I just wasn't up for making the ice cream last night. So I got up this morning, and as soon as I had a chance, I started making her ice cream. Got in the freezer while she was out taking her morning stroll with her best friend, and she come home and she just tried it and she said it's acceptable. So it's Reese's Pieces or Reese's Cups miniatures. Cut them up into quarters and add those in, and then add a bunch of caramel sprinkles into them. And then she's standing out there in the kitchen. I'm telling you, I just, it's it just didn't get as dark as I liked. That's why I added the caramel to it. She goes, "Well, why didn't you add the peanut butter powder to it?" And I'm going, "I couldn't find it. It's not with the other powders that I got for making ice cream. The strawberry, the what else do I have over there? I got strawberry, banana, and it wasn't with either one of those. I'm like, I can't find it. I know I could have swore she bought some. Somehow or another, it got moved over on the stove next to the bread. Caramel's gross, but the tiny Snickers are the best thing ever. Well, I do like Snickers, but I like caramel. I do. I like caramel and I like nougat. So uh, I thought about adding some cinnamon to it because I like cinnamon on my peanut butter, but and then cinnamon, of course, goes good on chocolate. But I just don't know how, I'm making this for the wife, and I don't know how she would feel about having cinnamon added into her ice cream. So that's she she's out washing my dishes that I put in the sink from making the ice cream this morning right now. Yeah, Paul, I was going to get there. Just cover that here in a few minutes. Uh, Iran decided, that they wanted to show that they still had a spine, so they warned us that they were going to send 14 or 15 missiles to the air base, and all but one of them got shot down out of the sky, and the other one was let go because it was going out to middle of nowhere and wasn't going to hurt anything. So why waste the money shooting it down? Oh, the milk chocolate peanut butter. Yeah, that that is pretty good. But yeah, he the supreme leader of Iran looks like he's in a little bit of trouble with his own countrymen. Um, I'm glad that for the most part, my concerns over the past few days, which I openly expressed, I know some people are saying that I'm a coward or uh, I wasn't thinking straight. I wasn't applying logic or history or anything to this. My problem is with that is fine. You can say that if you want, but we're still dealing with a Muslim country that has got their surrogates all around the world that are known for causing violence, bombings, suicide bombings, etc. And on the whole, I just, due to their, not just their past history of hundreds of years ago, but their current history in the last 25 years, I don't trust them. I do not trust Muslims. And it's a morning, Neil. And I just, it's that simple. I don't trust them. We've seen what they're doing in France. We've seen what they're doing in England. We've seen what they've done here in cities in the United States. And I do not trust those, anyone who is an adherent of the Muslim religion. And the more, I see you walking, I see the woman walking around, a married woman walking around in the United States wearing a hijab or face mask or anything. I'm automatically going to assume that they are the worst type of Muslim that there is out there. And until they prove otherwise, that's going to be my assumption. Because I simply do not, the facts are their history is what their history. Let's go all the way back to the founding of this country. They went and the kidnapping along the Barbary coast of U.S. ships and sailors and forced into slavery by Muslims. And our delegation went and talked to one of their ambassadors and asked him why. I said, "We have done nothing to you. Why are you attacking at our ships? Why are you enslaving our people?" And the response reportedly was, "Because you are infidels and the Quran tells us we can." The Marine hymn, "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli." Why were the Marines in Tripoli? Fighting Muslim slavers along the Barbary coast. So let's just get that out there. They've got this history. And people want to hold up the, American history against us. Look what you did to your people. Look what you did to blacks for 150 years. Look what you did to the American Indians, to the native Indians here. And they want to slam us today with that. When there are laws in the United States not only forbidding that these groups be treated like they were in the past, but granting them special privileges because of that treatment. Treatment that no one alive today put on them, and no one alive today suffered through. So let's just, if you're going to sit there and tell me that I owe a reparation to a black man whose great great grandfather was held as a slave because I'm white, and this guy who was never a slave is due reparations. You're going to sit there and tell me that I'm going to hold that same standard to other people. No, it really and truly is that simple. And don't come after me because I hold other people to the standard that you're holding me to. So, but anyway, let's take a look at a couple of news articles I pulled up here. We got a little bit off target here. Explosions rang out in Tehran on Tuesday, despite the U.S. president saying Israel had called off airstrikes at his command to preserve an hours-old ceasefire. Two witnesses reached by the telephone in the Iranian capital said they heard two loud explosions. The Israeli army said Israel had struck at an Iranian radar site near Tehran. Netanyahu said Israel had carried out no further strikes after Netanyahu spoke to Trump. Trump, en route to the NATO summit in the Netherlands, had said Israel had called off its attack after he rebuked Israel with an obscenity and an extraordinary outburst at the ally whose military campaign he had joined 2 days earlier. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. No one will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect, Trump said in Truth Social. That following post in which he has said, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Trump told reporters he was unhappy with both sides, but particularly unhappy with Israel, which he said had unloaded shortly before agreeing to the deal. I've got to get Israel to calm down. So long and so hard, they don't know what the F they're doing. All right. You want to take Muttley and the kitty with you? All right. If you decide to go anywhere today, that box needs to go back to Verizon. If you don't take it back, I will. So Verizon sent me a network extender because the one I bought 7 years ago is no longer being serviced by Verizon. So they sent me a new one and couldn't get it to work. So they sent me another new one, and then come to find out the first one they sent me was a refurnished one. So the new one come in last night, and following their directions, it would not work. Could not get this brand new one to work. So I had to go in there and start exploring on my own to figure out how to do it. And one important direction that they did not say is to turn off Wi-Fi calling on your phone. Oh, that really should be on your directions. It really and truly should be. So, okay, let's see here. I need to open this up on YouTube so I can see what link here Neil put up. All right, here we go. Da 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 da. Get past the Granger commercial. Here we go. I tell you what, Neil, I'm going to trust you that this isn't something that I shouldn't be listening to since Trump is there. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
Reports coming from the region suggest that the sides accuse each other for violating the ceasefire. So
I think they both violated it. I don't think I'm not sure they did it intentionally. They couldn't rein people back. I don't like the fact that Israel went out this morning at all, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. So as soon as I get away from you, I'm going to see if I can stop it. Okay?
Have you spoken to him this morning? How confident are you
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean. Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are really.
Is anybody really surprised that mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, etc., would try to downplay any success Trump would have? I mean, I'm not surprised at it at all.
You're losers. You really are. You're real losers. You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have a response to Iran like this?
Wow. Wow. You know, that alone should, I'm definitely changing my thumbnail, going to create this thumbnail, but that alone should put a halt to these claims by the leftists like AOC and the Squad, Elizabeth Warren, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that Trump is a puppet of Israel. The last 2 minutes prior to him walking to the plane, that last minute should be enough to say that he's no puppet, like they like to claim. Because yeah, Neil, you're right. I'd say you know, reading what he says, but actually seeing him say it, and the anger in his voice, the anger in his face, that really, you know, I mean, puts forth the anger that the man's felt. You know, that. Thank you for getting that for me. I appreciate it. Because that absolutely, I mean, right there. I mean, I'm getting rid of like 3 different news articles because there's no reason to go any further. That was all there was to it. All right, I am going to save this video to my, first of all, let me stop sharing that. And I'm going to save this video. Okay. That is a keeper video for me to bring up whenever in the future. Paul, you're right, because when the news media sat there during his first term, will he, disavow skinheads? And it was brought up, he's disavowed it yesterday, disavowed it last week, he disavowed it last week, but will he disavow it today? So you're right, nothing will ever convince the left and the left-wing media about Trump, no matter what he says. Nothing will ever convince them otherwise. If he came out and said that every day for the next 6 months, the first day he didn't say it, see, we told you he was a puppet. He didn't come out today and bash Israel. So, okay. Let's see here. And speaking of Donald Trump, remember a long time ago, I mean, really a long time ago, Trump proposed a National Garden of American Heroes. And he wanted it to, I mean, everybody from the founding fathers through uh, Lafayette, Daniel Boone, Crockett, all the way up through, American heroes that are locally recognized, but they're not in one area where you can sit there and say, yes, these people have done these things. These are the Americans who really brought forth America as we know it today. These are the heroes. And they're wanting to put it in South Dakota in the Black Hills near Mount Rushmore. And a mining company has offered to donate 40 acres for this project. And the governor of South Dakota, it is for it. He's expressed strong support, Governor Larry Roden. And, he wrote that the Black Hills mark the perfect location to achieve your vision for the National Garden of American Heroes. Yeah, not to be confused with Jasmine. How can anybody ever confuse Jasmine as being as being an American hero? She is just a racist, pure through. Yeah, Paul, it was back during his first term. Well, the Indian tribe there, uh, of course, is against it. A treaty in 1868, Treaty of Fort Laramie, formally recognized the Black Hills as belonging to the Sioux Indian tribe. But in 1870s, the government seized the land for gold mining. Then in 1980, the Supreme Court said, yeah, the United States did violate that treaty 100 years ago. And offered the Sioux Indians $1.3 billion. And the Sioux said, no, we don't want your money. We want our land. We want that land, including the Mount Rushmore. And of course, obviously, if they got Mount Rushmore, more likely than not, they would absolutely destroy Mount Rushmore. So the United States is saying, nah. That ain't happening. Well, so they're fighting, the American Indians are fighting the Sioux tribe. They're fighting against the garden being put there. They're fighting against the mining company. They're fighting against Trump. So we're probably going to see some more court cases out of this. And given the propensity of, I don't know, let me see if I can find out who the district judge is or who the federal judge is for South Dakota. U.S. District Judge, South Dakota. Okay. Oh, right. Let's see here. Well, oh man, they've got a bunch of them. Well, I don't have time. I don't have time to sit here, and I'm not going to make you guys sit here while I try to research each and every one of them and when they got into office and who nominated them. Uh, but the propensity of people going and find Biden and Obama nominees, Paul, you're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right. So, but we'll we'll see what kind of that 200 this garden that Trump wants put out is 250 statues, life-size statues. And he would really like to have it done by July 4th of next year. So a year from now. It it would be I think there's no way it's going to get done. Have 250 statues done up in a year. I don't think we've got enough sculptors to do life-size sculptures in that time. And I mean, the U.S. House has approved $40 million, but the Senate hasn't approved the money yet. So I would love to see it happen. So some of the ones, Christopher Columbus, Amelia Earhart, Muhammad Ali, Steve Jobs, President Andrew Jackson. You know, it's just amazing. Would I like to see something like that happen? Yes. But is it going to? I doubt it, especially not in time for the 4th of July of next year. Okay. I'm going to save that. Save that for last. If you live in Rhode Island and you're a multimillionaire and you want to buy a second house, you are going to get hit with some severe additional taxes. I saw this morning and I just started laughing at the name of it. So let me show this to you. Yeah, here we go. The Taylor Swift tax proposed by Rhode Island. Absolutely wonderful. Rhode Island officials have shared their latest budget proposals, with one being unofficially referred to as a Taylor Swift tax on second or seasonal homes. The tax would increase the seller's fee by 63% and hit both home sellers and buyers, making the market unaffordable, according to the retailers. The budget proposals are specifically targeting high-end vacation homes, would put a new surcharge on second homes if they are worth over $1 million. Well, that's not hard for a house to be worth over $1 million. I mean, my $150,000 house 7 years later is worth $250,000. The average new home is selling for over $400,000 now, nationwide. So yeah, it's really not hard to hit that $1 million mark. The annual fee would be, let's see here. If this proposal is approved, it would add an additional fee for owners of non-primary residences that are empty for over half the year. The fee would be $2.50 for every $500 of value that is above the $1 million mark. So a $2.5 million house would have extra taxes of $7,500 each year. Now, here's why it gets called the Swift tax. For Swift's Watts Hill estate, she would owe an additional $136,000 a year in taxes. Ouch! It's not that she can't afford it, but she is a huge Democrat. She's a big time liberal. I wonder how she's going to feel about getting hit for an additional $136,000 a year in taxes, plus the additional 63% on if she tries to sell the house. That is ouch, $136,000. Yeah. That's 2.5 years income for most people in the United States. So the estate, which has 3 floors with 7 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms for $17.75 million. She's been known to have celebrities over for parties, including her 4th of July parties. Other proposal would affect what sellers have to pay during closing. The conveyance fee would go from $230 to $375 for every $500, which would be a 63% increase. According to Zillow, the average selling price of a home in Rhode Island is $492,939. With the new rate, the tax would go from $2,200 to $3,700. And that's on the seller. If that's not going to that is really going to put a hurting on the real estate market, especially high-end real estate market in Rhode Island. People are going to get stuck with houses that they don't want, paying outrageous taxes on them, and they can't afford to sell them because of the taxes on trying to sell your house. And that's outrageous that a seller has to pay taxes. That's beyond. Okay, that's interesting. Why is my chat not picking you up there? There you go, Neil. And obviously, I did answer your question. I just didn't see it because the chat on my phone didn't pop up. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, some states have really gotten stupid about how much they want to dig into your pocket about things. That it's absolutely ridiculous how much they want to dig into your pocket. So, all right, we're going to jump over to the Supreme Court now. And that's the rest of this is I won't be talking about the Supreme Court. So just fair warning. This first one, this guy is, it's unbelievable that this happened. The Supreme Court agreed on Monday to hear the appeal of a former Louisiana prison inmate whose dreadlocks were cut off by prison guards in violation of his religious beliefs. The justices will review an appellate ruling that held that the former inmate could not sue prison officials for money damages under a federal law aimed at protecting prisoners' religious rights. Landor, an adherent of the Rastafari religion, even carried a copy of a ruling by the appeals court in another inmate's case, holding that cutting the religious prisoner's dreadlocks violates Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. He had not cut his hair in nearly 2 decades when he went into the Louisiana's prison system for a 5-month sentence. 5 months! Now here's the question. You usually stay in jail for anything under a year. So why was he being sent to a prison for 5 months? That just does not make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. If somebody can make sense of that to me, I'd appreciate it. But you don't. I mean, anything under a year, that's for a local jail to deal with. Not the state prison system. As first 2 stops, officials respected his beliefs, but things changed when he got to the Raymond Laborde Correctional Center in Cottonport, 80 miles northwest of Baton Rouge, for the final 3 weeks of his term. Four months, no problem. Gets to the last 3 weeks. A prison guard took a copy of the ruling Landor carried and tossed it in the trash. Then the warden ordered the guards to cut his dreadlocks. While 2 guards restrained him, a third shaved his head to the scalp. This is just cruelty. This has nothing to do with following rules or anything else. This is just cruelty and showing that you have power. And this is a problem that this is a problem with modern day policing and correctional officers. Oh yeah, definitely, Paul. It's already over. It feels like over 100 here. Landor sued after his release, but lower courts dismissed the case. The Fifth Circuit lamented that Landor's treatment, but said the law doesn't allow him to hold prison officials liable for damages. Landor's lawyers have argued that the court should be guided by its decision in 2021, allowing Muslim men to sue over their inclusion in the FBI's no-fly list under a sister statute, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. President Donald Trump's Republican administration filed a brief to sue and urge the court to hear the case. Oh my God. Trump's administration is supporting a Rastafarian's right to sue for mistreatment. I thought Trump and his administration was filled with nothing but racist and xenophobes. Honestly, the warden and the guards should be fired, and they should be civilly liable personally. The state should be liable also, of course, obviously. But the 3 guards and the warden should be personally liable. And if he hit them for their retirement funds, for every damn penny in their retirement funds, I wouldn't cry one bit. It wouldn't break my heart one bit. You don't sit there and take a court ruling, throw it in the trash can, then physically restrain the man while someone else shaves his head to the scalp. Not when the man, especially not when the man's only going to be there for 3 weeks. That's a blink of an eyeball to most people's sentences. That's like I said, I hope the Supreme Court rules in his favor, and then I hope he walks out of there with $1 million, and every damn dime that those guards and that warden have in their retirement pensions. Every dime, because it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, now we're going to talk about another Supreme Court. We're going to talk about Justice Brown Jackson. And in one of her dissents, she said something that irritates the daylights out of me. Hey, morning, Digi. Jackson Brown goes it alone and rebukes his Supreme Court colleagues. Justice Brown Jackson called textualism incessantly malleable and accused her colleagues of giving the perception the Supreme Court favors moneyed interests over ordinary citizens in 2 pointed dissents on Friday. In both cases, the junior justice was writing only for herself. In Stanley v. City of Sanford, the majority said the Americans with Disability Act does not allow retirees to sue their former employers over post benefits. In a footnote to her dissent, she accused her colleagues of using the theory of textualism to get the desired result. That theory emphasizes the plain text in interpreting statutory language. She explained the role of a judge in interpreting statutes is to give effect to Congress's intent. Textualism, on the other hand, ignores broader context and turns to the interpretive task to a potent weapon for advancing judicial policy preferences. By finding answers in ambiguous text and not bothering to consider whether those answers align with other sources, pure textualists can easily disguise their own preferences as textual inevitabilities. No, I didn't go to law school. All right. But I spent 20 years reading Air Force regulations, rules and regulations. I spent 20 years having to follow these rules and following approved procedures for working on aircraft with people whose sole purpose in life was to ensure that everybody working on those aircraft were following the books and other approved procedures. You went by the text of what was written down. You know, if and when it comes to the law, when the law says shall, that means there's no budget room. You will do this. If it says may, then you got wiggle room. You've got options. If Congress is writing a bill that is going to become law, the court's decisions is not to interpret that law according to how they feel they meant that Congress meant for it to be interpreted. Judges are supposed to take the actual text of what the law says and apply it. And not try to, well, we need to do this or we need to do that to make this law work. No, what does the law say? And if Congress writes a bad law, then the judges say there's nothing we can do. This is a bad law. We need to throw it out. Congress needs to amend this law. That's not our job. Our job is to apply the law as it's written or determine that the law is unconstitutional. You're right, Paul. Because, she explained the role of a judge in interpreting statutes is to give effect to Congress's intent. No, that's not your job. Your job is to apply the law as it was written. Jackson accused the majority of a let-them-eat-cake obliviousness in her 2023 dissent for Students for Fair Admissions v. Harvard, in which the court struck down affirmative action in higher education. So she was all for affirmative action in higher ed. She was for allowing people to be not, hey, your skin color is more important than your grades. She's all for racism because the racism and affirmative action helps people based upon their skin color. In a separate case, Jackson accused her colleagues of running the risk of eroding public trust In the court's impartiality, when it revived a lawsuit, fuel producers brought challenging the EPA's decision to approve California regulations that require automakers to make more electric cars. How can a state tell a manufacturer of anything what they have to make? You have to make more of your cars 50% of your cars have to be electric cars, or 60%, or even 10%. Manufacturers make what manufacturers make. Now, California can make their pollution restrictions or whatever so stupidly high that only electric cars can pass them. And then nobody in California will be able to afford a car. And California won't have enough power to put, they don't have enough power to make everybody have an electric car because they can't charge them all. But the EPA here was totally wrong to approve regulations that require an automaker to make something that they don't want to make. In the court's majority ruling, Brett Kavanaugh said the fuel producers had standing to challenge the regulations because their injuries in fact and causation were straightforward. Again, how can anybody justify a state demanding that a manufacturer make something that they don't want to make or produce more of a product than they want to produce? I mean, if there's a huge demand for electric cars, the manufacturers, they want to make money, so they'll produce more electric cars. But they're not going to produce electric cars or produce a product that's just going to sit there, especially a car that's got to sit on that they got to sit on the lot and then buy back if they don't sell. Because if nobody's buying the cars, the dealers go out of business. Then where are you going to sell your electric cars at? Now, this next one, okay, where did the court case go? Here we go. Let me get rid of that. Don't need that. Okay, Judge Brian Murphy out of Massachusetts, he is a little upset with the Supreme Court. Okay. Judge Brian Murphy, he put forth a ruling. He's a district judge out of Massachusetts. He is a Obama? No, he's a Biden appointee. He's only been a district judge for a year. And he's put out a ruling that the Trump administration could not deport people, deport illegals. Okay. Uh, and the Supreme Court said, nah, they can deport him. His ruling required the deportees to Djibouti to have reasonable fear interviews and a minimum of 15 days to seek to reopen immigration proceedings to challenge their removal to a third country. Well, the Supreme Court, let me go ahead and pull up this article here. This is fun. The Supreme Court's conservative majority on Monday delivered a significant win for the Trump admin's immigration policy, clearing the way for officials to resume deportation of illegals. It may say that word, but that's the incorrect word. It should be illegals. Illegals should be in there. To third countries without due process requirement imposed by a district court judge. The nation's high court did not explain the decision, but said that the stay of the lower court's judge's mandate would terminate should the administration ultimately lose the appeal on the merits. Litigation is ongoing, but expected to take years to complete. So this district judge is saying that his ruling has to stand, even, and the Supreme Court said no, because this is going to take years to go. So until it's decided, the administration gets to do what they do. The Supreme Court's order on Monday allows the Trump administration to resume carrying out expedited removals of dozens of unauthorized, I love that, instead of saying illegal, they're unauthorized immigrants to countries other than their own. The lawsuit at the center of the case was originally filed by illegals who were either deported to a third country without due process or at risk of being removed. Again, my opinion only. If you're in the country illegally, you don't have any due process. Your due process is picked up, handcuffed, taken to the border, and removed. You come through the southern border, you go back to the southern border. It's that plain and simple. You do not get the privilege of being deported back to your home country at our expense. You walked across Mexico to get here, you can walk back across Mexico to get back home. You brought a plane across the ocean and overstayed your visa, you can buy your own, we'll confiscate everything you own, sell it off, and send you back home with buy your ticket back home with your own, the proceeds from selling your house or your car or whatever else you have. We sell everything you got to get you back home, to buy you a plane ticket. You've got if you got your way to get here illegally, you can get your own way back to wherever you belong. Right now is the perfect time for anybody who's in the country illegally to leave, to self-deport. And if that means you got to sell everything you own to be able to afford to do it, then start selling, man. Yard sales are wonderful. You can make some money on yard sales. eBay is a thing. Exactly. No. Well, I will also include immigrants who are here legally. Okay, they do deserve. Anybody who's here legally does deserve some constitutional protections. But if they're here illegally, they don't get a damn dime's worth. Before reaching the Supreme Court, the case had grown to several other illegals, including 8 men convicted of violent crimes, who are given notice of removal to the East African country of South Sudan. After U.S. District Court Brian Murphy and federal court in Boston blocked the admin's attempt to deport the group to South Sudan without giving them a sufficient chance to contest their removal, the group disembarked to Djibouti, where they remain on a military base. In an order Monday, Murphy said the 8 men in Djibouti remain protected from immediate removal despite the court's ruling, referencing another order he issued separate from the one put on hold by the Supreme Court. This ruling required migrants in Djibouti to have reasonable fear interviews and a minimum of 15 days to seek to move to reopen immigration proceedings to challenge their potential removal to a third country. Now, Murphy, an order from U.S. District Judge Brian Murphy late Tuesday directs the government to maintain custody and control of anyone deported to South Sudan covered under a lawsuit challenging the admin's practice of deporting migrant illegals to third countries to ensure practical feasibility of return if the court finds such removals were unlawful. This judge the Supreme Court's already made a ruling, and this judge is saying, I don't care. Now, somewhere along the lines, here, the judge said that, and I'm trying to find it again, that the reason why his rulings are still in effect is because they weren't the appeals process didn't happen properly. The appeal to the Supreme Court that was not properly appealed. So let's take a look here. Department of Homeland Security et al. Applicants versus DVD et al. This is the appeals, the Supreme Court paperwork dealing with this court ruling. May 27th, the application for a stay submitted to Justice Jackson. Yeah, and this is one of the reasons, this is why we brought up Jackson earlier. The 28th, response to application requested by Jackson due by 4 p.m. June 4th, response to application to respondents filed. June 4th, brief amicus curiae of immigration from the Reformed Law Institute filed. The 4th of June, brief amicus for Center for Gender and Refugee Studies filed. June 5th, reply of applicants, Department of Homeland Security filed. June 5th, brief amicus of America's Future and Conservative Legal Defense and Education Fund filed. June 23rd, application referred to the court. Then June 23rd. Remember, today's the 24th, guys. The application for stay presented to Justice Jackson and by her referred to the court is granted. The April 18th, 2025 preliminary injunction of the United States District Court for the District of Massachusetts is stayed pending the disposition of the appeal in the United States Courts of Appeals for the First Circuit and disposition of petition for the writ of Centauri, if such a writ is timely sought. Should Centauri be denied, this stay shall terminate automatically. In the event Centauri is granted, the stay shall terminate upon sending down the judgment of the court. Justice Sotomayor with Justice Keegan and Justice Jackson joined dissenting. So the judges ruled. The Supreme Court ruled on this. And this little district judge is sitting there having the nerve to say that I don't care what the Supreme Court says, you've got to follow my rulings or else I'm going to, he's making threats of having Department of Homeland Security agents arrested for violating his orders. Now, when Brian Murphy was being presented to the Senate as a nominee to the district judge seat that he holds, Elizabeth Warren had the honor of introducing him. And this is what she had to say.
Senator Markey and I were proud to recommend Mr. Murphy to President Biden for his appointment to the federal bench. Mr. Murphy started out as a public defender in Worcester, Massachusetts, and since then he has dedicated his career to representing individuals in state and federal criminal court. Initially, he was a solo practitioner in Worcester. Mr. Murphy is now the managing partner of a law firm of 12 attorneys. Mr. Murphy's professional life has been defined by his dedication to the Constitution. His initial focus was on criminal defense at the trial and appellate level. Though his practice has broadened, he remains deeply committed to ensuring that every defendant has the right to a lawyer.
Now, remember here what she said here, that he's got, he's got broad experience. Keep that in mind because that's going to become important later on.
Regardless of income or status. He has shown this commitment through his criminal defense work in state and federal courts and has also managed civil and probate matters. His experience in court is impressive. He has tried more than 40 cases to verdict as sole counsel or chief counsel, more than half of which were jury trials. In addition, as managing partner, he is responsible for supervising and supporting attorneys at his firm as they develop their lawyering skills, as well as leading strategic business decisions. Mr. Murphy is a staunch and committed advocate. He sees the humanity of the individuals he works with, and he strives to make sure that the interests of justice are served. He serves and supports his community inside and outside the courtroom. He is fair and well respected by prosecutors, defense attorneys, and other members of the Massachusetts legal community. They all speak of his outstanding preparation, his even temperament, and his professionalism. I am proud to express my support for his nomination to serve as a federal judge on the district court in Massachusetts, and I am happy to see that he is joined here today by his family and friends, including his wife, Lindsay, their 3 children, his parents, Margaret and Ed Murphy, his sister and niece, and his brother and sister-in-law. We have a large contingent here today, and I'm delighted to welcome them all. I want to congratulate Mr. Murphy on this achievement, and I want to thank the committee again for the opportunity to introduce such an outstanding candidate this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Chairman.
All right. So now we've heard what she had to say. Okay. Now, that was her introducing him to the Senate. Now, Senate Judiciary Committees, when they hear their confirmation hearings, they're not long because they only get 5 minutes per person. That's it. And then sometimes they'll do a second round. If they do a second round, they may get 7 minutes the first round and 4 minutes the second round. I've watched so many of these confirmation hearings. And they're actually, fairly short, 2, maybe 3 hours. Now this confirmation hearing here, it was 2 hours and 2 minutes long. But it wasn't until 1 hour and 36 minutes into it It wasn't until 1 hour and 36 minutes into it that Mr. Murphy was brought in for his nomination hearing. And of that, he was only given 2 questions. Now, I'm really sorely disappointed in the number of Republicans that showed up for these. But this is under Biden. This was April of last year. Make sure I got the volume up on these things.
About to give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Now that's Murphy right there. I don't care about these 2 women right now. We're going to just watch Murphy's stuff. So we're not going to watch his whole 30 minutes that's left.
It could reflect that all 3 nominees, thank goodness, have answered in the affirmative. I'm not sure what we'd do if you didn't. But we will proceed. You each have 5 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Murphy, you're first.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Durbin, and members of the committee. I am humbled to be here this morning. Receiving this nomination has been the honor of my career. I would like to thank President Biden for nominating me. I also want to thank Senators Warren and Markey for their support of my nomination and for their kind words for me this morning. I want to acknowledge.
I've got to say here from the outgoing, you all know this, I have been sorely disappointed and a lot of times angered and frustrated at the Biden nominees to the court. Not because they were Biden nominees, but because of what came out about them during the hearings. And the Democrats just went ahead and put them through anyway. A lot of these judges have had horrendous, absolutely horrendous backgrounds, rulings, and lied in these hearings. Committed actual perjury because they're sworn in. And the Democrats just voted them on in through and gave them their appointments anyway. So I'm again, I'm not going to say that's never happened on the Republican side. But the trash that got through in the last 4 years was outrageous.
Acknowledge the great number of family members who have supported me throughout my life, and many of whom are here with me today. I am joined today by my wife, Lindsay Heffernan. She has been my strongest supporter, and she has been my closest confidant and best friend.
Did you notice about his wife's name?
Has been the honor of my career. I would like to thank President Biden for nominating me. I also want to thank Senators Warren and Markey for their support of my nomination and for their kind words for me this morning. I want to acknowledge the great number of family members who have supported me throughout my life, and many of whom are here with me today. I am joined today by my wife, Lindsay Heffernan.
Right there should tell you a lot about this man when his wife did not take his last name. They don't have the same last name. They didn't even hyphenate their names. She is not acknowledging by her name that she is even married to this man. So there's the first red flag about this guy.
She has been my strongest supporter, and she has been my closest confidant and best friend for the last 25 years. I'm also lucky to be joined by my 3 wonderful children. I'm thrilled to have my children be able to see the Senate in action, and I look forward to viewing the Constitution with them later this week. I am fortunate to be surrounded by a loving and supportive family my whole life. I'm lucky today to be joined by my parents, who have strengthened me and been my biggest cheerleaders.
And this is something. What is this acknowledgement of family members? You were there to accept nomination to a federal bench. You're not there to sing the praises of your family. List them off and everything they've done for you. Talk about your profession and what you've done professionally. Nobody cares about your family.
They instilled in me both the importance of education and of public service. I'm also lucky to be joined by my sister, Shannon Dandridge, as well as my niece. I know my sisters, Kara and Kristen, are watching from home. I'm also grateful that my brother and sister-in-law, Neil and Christina Heffernan, have been able to join me today. I'm lucky to have a large, extended family who is watching at home, and I want to thank them for all the encouragement they have always given me. I also want to acknowledge my close friends and neighbors, the Molinas, who were able to join us today. I also want to thank my professional community. I know my friends from the legal community are watching this online, and their support has been.
Paul, I didn't think about that, but yeah, you're right. You are very right about that.
Invaluable. I want to specifically thank the members of my law firm. I have been privileged to work with some of the best legal minds, and they have constantly helped me grow as a lawyer. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and for considering my nomination, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Judge Pinnell.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're going to skip forward about 6 minutes. I want 4626. Whoop. We'll get to 4619.
It's an important public safety result and an important result for our community in terms of getting people back into work.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy and Ms. Vargas, as I look at your backgrounds, it's interesting, the contrast in a way, and I'm going to ask you to comment on it. Mr. Murphy seems to have dedicated a large part of his professional life to defense work. primarily at that table. Ms. Vargas, prosecuting has been part of your background. And the concern, obviously, from the members of the committee, as has been expressed over and over again, is can you see the other side of the story? Will you treat the prosecutor, in your case, Mr. Murphy, with the same level of respect and professional courtesy that you would want for yourself? Ms. Vargas, can you put yourself in the shoes of a defendant who's fighting for their rights and wondering if you as a judge are going to be fair in your verdict? I'd like to ask each of you to comment on that. Mr. Murphy first.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, I believe that I can switch from the role of an advocate to the role of a neutral arbitrator successfully. I think my experience working with people has given me a great deal of time trying cases. So I've tried many cases to a verdict in front of a jury, and understanding how the judge in each of those cases provides a forum that allows both advocates to present their case fairly and fully, such that they feel like their side of the house has been heard completely by the time that case is decided by the finder of fact, be it either a judge or a jury, is something that I would seek to emulate. And I think I can make that transition from being an advocate to being a neutral arbitrator.
Ms. Vargas.
That's it. That was Durbin's only question to this guy. 159. Come. And this is the last question I could find on him. This is the last thing I could find. Now, I'm sure, I mean, I saw Kennedy sitting over there, Senator Kennedy. I'm sure Kennedy asked him some questions. But I couldn't find it on video.
One of my senators that I learn a lot from, maybe because she's professorial, is a good senator from Massachusetts. And in this case, she told me what to do, which was to be nice to you. And so
she told me to be nice. Talk about a pansy admission. She told me to be nice, so I'm going to be nice to you.
So I am going to adhere to that.
Paul, I've been thinking that same thing. That I've been thinking the same thing about this guy. So you're. Yeah, and I don't. You guys in chat, I don't ban anything in chat except personal attacks on each other. Well, for the most part, ban most personal attacks on each other. There's some people that deserve all the personal attacks they get.
Direction, and please report back to her that I was nice.
Oh, you make sure you go and tell Ms. Warren that I was a nice guy to you, and I didn't ask you any hard questions. Okay. This man is wasting his time, his limited time to question this guy by begging him to tell another senator that he was nice to him. These hearings aren't designed for you. They're not supposed to be nice to the nominee. They're supposed to be asking these nominees hard questions and making certain that these people are the right people to go to that job, or in this case, a lifetime appointment to a federal bench. They're not supposed to be nice to them.
I'm in your debt, Senator. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Why is the diversity on the bench, not of racial diversity, ethnic diversity, religious diversity, why is it important to have people like you who have had work, which is not as diverse, I think, as it should be, but I'm wondering if you could speak to the diversity of having defense attorneys, public defenders. Why is that?
Remember I said earlier when Elizabeth Warren was introducing him to the Senate and saying how broad his experiences were? But here's here's I don't like it. Your experience isn't diverse enough for me. You're not diverse enough. This is why DEI has to go. And that word diverse needs to be banned from the political lexicon. Well, I appreciate
So I
that,
think
Paul.
representing individuals in criminal prosecutions gives you an insight into how people find themselves in front of the court. And so you have a better understanding of the backgrounds that they've gone through and some of the struggles that they've gone through. And so you can see the humanity of the person in front of you. And you can use your ability to see the humanity of the person in front of you to really fashion the way the court interacts with them, the types of sanctions that are imposed in a way that's productive and helps sort of get them back on the right track.
Thank you very much. I appreciate.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. This guy is sitting there saying that it's more important, the law be damned. It's more important to worry about the defendant's feelings. Unbelievable. Now, I am for, if a person is incarcerated for a crime, and it's, they have no skills, they can't read, they can't write, they can't speak well. And don't hold me up as an example of somebody who speaks well, please. They can't formulate a thought, and every other word that comes out of their mouth is a curse word. I have no problem with, trying to raise their level of education, teaching them a manageable skill, HVAC, plumbing, electrical work. Yeah, blue collar work, it's hard, but it pays well. You make good money on it, and you don't need to be out committing crimes if you've got a marketable skill. Welding. So I've got no problem with these being part of correctional facilities. But you can't force someone to take advantage of those classes. Make them available. But you can't force people to take them. And believe it or not, that is
you, Mr. Bell, you're bringing this incredible diversity. Ms. Vargas.
That is it that I could find on this guy's congressional hearings. Now, I looked him up on his on Wiki. And the one thing here that just stuck out to me, besides the fact that he has been in office since December 6th of last year. That's how long he's been a district judge, since December 6th. Okay. 7 months, 7.5 months, he's been a district judge, and he is telling the Supreme Court that they didn't make correct rulings. He is telling the President of the United States and making threats to jail federal officers, only being in office 7.5 months. But the other thing that really struck me here is right here. He was the editor-in-chief of the Columbia Human Rights Law Review. That's absolutely, I mean, how much more left wing can you get? Exactly. How much more left wing can you get than that? You know, spent 7 years or 3 years at the as a public defender. I'm sorry. This guy has no. This guy is absolutely was a horrible nominee. But if you ask Elizabeth Warren and Cory Booker, ask Durbin, and they're going to do nothing but sing their praises. This is why I spend so much time watching these nominee, and I try to save them into a file to where I can go back for them to look them back up, but they disappear. Forbes takes them down, or whoever put them up takes them down, or they get blocked for one reason or another. So, but anyway, that's all I got for today. I've got to make a run to Verizon this afternoon, and I may make some more ice cream. I may make some banana flavored ice cream. Stop by the store and pick up some bananas. Make me up some banana ice cream. Tomorrow, or the 26th, which is Friday, I don't know if there's going to be a stream or not. I've got a mandatory in-home medical visit. And she's supposed to be here sometime between 9 and 11, of course. And this is mandated by my insurance company, so I probably won't be streaming that morning on the 26th. I know. Hey, data. Yeah. Let me verify. Where's my? Oh, it's right here in front of me. Duh. Let me look at my calendar again. Make sure I got this right. No, the appointment's the 25th. It's tomorrow morning. So that probably will not be streaming tomorrow morning, but I will be streaming Friday morning. Depending on how long it takes, I may do a mini stream after she leaves, but it depends on what time. I don't know if it's a he or she who shows up. So whoever shows up when they're done, if it's over and done with quickly, I'll try to get a mini stream in. All right. But anyway, ladies and gents, thanks all for coming out. Yeah. Yes, today is Tuesday. Oh, that's right. So tomorrow's Wednesday. Duh. So I will stream Thursday and Friday then. And I may or may not. No, I probably won't stream. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I don't stream on Wednesdays anyway because I'm up all night. Okay, guys, you see how incoherent. My wife loves me for this. I never know what day of the week I'm into anymore. So y'all have a good day now. Enjoy yourselves. Be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. Have a good day. We'll see you on Thursday. Bye.